Dawn in the Himalayas brings no relief. It is not a promise of calm, nor a spectacle meant to be admired. Here, the light simply exposes. It reveals a territory that never rests and offers no second chances. Night doesn't vanish all at once. It recedes slowly, as if even the darkness knows that moving carelessly in these mountains is dangerous. The cold remains. No matter how high the sun climbs, the air is still harsh, dry, demanding. Each breath requires more effort than the last. At almost 5,000 meters altitude, oxygen is scarce. The body feels it immediately. Movements slow down, stamina decreases, and any mistake is costly. In this place, living isn't automatic. It's a constant struggle. The Tibetan Plateau stretches across more than 2.5 million square kilometers in the heart of Asia. Surrounded by some of the highest mountain ranges on the planet, it connects regions such as India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Myanmar. It is not just a high plateau, it is a natural barrier that shapes the climate, the lives, and the destinies of its inhabitants. This is Tibet, known as the roof of the world, an environment where survival depends not on brute force, but on precise adaptation, where each organism exists because it has learned to read the terrain, the climate, and the weather better than its competitors. Before continuing, remember to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and tell us where in the world you are watching this documentary from. Now then, let's begin. In a place where most animals struggle to survive, some seem to have found an advantage by observing from above. There, where the ground becomes inaccessible and the air thins, a silhouette stands out against the sky, the Himalayan vulture. It is not a brightly colored bird with a striking song. Its presence is imposing due to its size and function. With plumage in shades of cream, brown, and black, it blends in with the rocks, dry slopes, and snow-capped peaks. Its wingspan can exceed 3 meters, making it one of the largest flying birds on the planet. From a cliff more than 4,000 meters high, the vulture observes the immensity of the plateau. It doesn't move without reason. It doesn't chase shadows. It waits. The image may be misleading. It might seem that the vulture is stalking, ready to pounce on live prey, but its strategy is different. The Himalayan vulture doesn't hunt, it takes advantage. It is a specialized scavenger, a key component of the high-altitude ecosystem. Its survival depends on the death of others, and in a territory where every day presents a challenge, this strategy proves extraordinarily efficient. Its body reflects this adaptation. The beak is large, curved, and extremely strong, capable of tearing through skin and muscle with ease. The claws, on the other hand, are relatively weak. It doesn't need to grasp prey that fights back. Its food doesn't flee. The absence of feathers on the head and neck is not a minor detail. It's an evolutionary advantage. Inserting the head into a carcass would be problematic if it were covered in feathers. Bare skin is easy to clean, reducing the risk of infection in an environment where hygiene is not an option, but a necessity. When a large herbivore falls on the plateau, the message spreads rapidly through the sky. The vulture possesses extraordinary vision. From hundreds of meters high, it detects subtle changes in the landscape, a motionless shape, the reaction of other animals, the gathering of smaller birds. One of their most frequent foods is the wild yak, one of the giants of Tibet. As soon as the opportunity is confirmed, the vulture abandons its high position and descends. The landing is not silent. Wings slice through the air, and the impact with the ground announces their arrival. Soon other vultures appear from different points in the sky. There is no disorder. Each individual occupies a space. Time is limited, and efficiency is key. A large corpse can be reduced to bones in just a couple of hours. Muscles, organs, soft tissues, everything disappears. Nothing is wasted. On the Tibetan Plateau, where energy is a scarce resource, carrion cannot be wasted. Beyond feeding, vultures fulfill a vital function. They eliminate organic remains that could otherwise become breeding grounds for disease. They are the recyclers of the world's roof, responsible for closing cycles in an environment where nothing is wasted. For much of the year, they fly in small groups, usually 10 to 20 individuals, always alert, always with empty stomachs. Overeating is not an advantage. The next opportunity may not appear for days. When the breeding season arrives at the beginning of winter, their behavior changes. The vultures look for safe places to nest. And there is no better refuge than vertical cliffs, inaccessible to most terrestrial predators. There, on narrow rock ledges, they build simple nests. Several pairs can share the same cliff without serious conflict. In this environment, cooperation is more profitable than confrontation. After about 7 weeks of incubation, a single egg hatches. The chick is born completely dependent. For months, the adults take turns feeding it and protecting it from the extreme cold. It will learn to fly late, but when it does, its life will be forever linked to the Himalayan sky. But not all survival strategies in these mountains involve waiting. Far from the cliffs, on the silent, steep slopes, another predator moves with a completely different logic. Among rocks, shadows, and impossible slopes, a body blends into the landscape. The snow leopard. Its greyish fur, covered in irregular spots, makes it almost invisible against the stone and snow. At first glance, it can go unnoticed even from just a few meters away. This feline is one of the most efficient hunters at high altitudes. Its long, muscular hind legs allow it to leap more than 15 meters in a single bound. In terrain where every change in elevation is a challenge, that ability makes all the difference. Weighing close to 50 kilos, the snow leopard is capable of hunting prey 3 times its size. Mountain goats, ibex, marmots, deer, few animals of the plateau are beyond its reach. However, hunting here is not easy. Prey density is low, and the climate limits activity for much of the year. To survive, this feline needs to consume a considerable amount of meat each week, a difficult task, even for such a specialized hunter. That's why the snow leopard doesn't waste energy. It spends most of the day motionless. It rests, sleeps, observes. It can remain inactive for up to 18 hours a day. It's not laziness, it's strategy. The time to act comes at dawn or dusk, when the long shadows favor camouflage and the prey reduces its attention. Unlike other big cats, the snow leopard doesn't roar. Its anatomy doesn't allow it. Instead, it emits low, almost imperceptible sounds that rarely break the silence of the mountains. It is a solitary and deeply territorial animal. A single individual can control hundreds of square kilometers. There's plenty of space here, but also isolation. When the breeding season arrives, the female emits specific vocalizations. If a male responds, the encounter is brief. After mating, each goes its separate way. Gestation lasts around 3 months. The female seeks out rocky shelters, deep crevices, or caves protected from the wind. There, 1 or 2 completely helpless cubs are born. For more than a year, the mother will be their only protection. She will teach them how to move, how to hunt, and above all, how to read the terrain. When they are ready, they must leave. In the Himalayas, there is no place for crowds. While these large predators dominate the heights, other species have turned the terrain into their greatest ally. On the steep slopes, where the ground resembles a jigsaw puzzle of rock and gravel, a herbivore moves calmly, defying all logic. Himalayan tahr. Its robust body, covered in long, dense fur, is designed to withstand the cold and wind. Its hooves have a unique structure, a hard edge surrounding a soft center, allowing it to grip surfaces where other animals would inevitably slip. The tahr feeds on grasses, leaves, and shoots. Its selective grazing not only allows it to survive, but also shapes the alpine vegetation. As it moves, it creates natural trails that other species use. Unwittingly, it alters the landscape, but even here, safety is not absolute. The snow leopard watches from the shadows. Predation pressure keeps the herbivore population in balance, preventing overgrazing and preserving the fragile high-altitude ecosystem. Each leap of the tahr, each precise footfall on the rock is the result of thousands of years of adaptation to an unforgiving environment. And so, on this first journey across the roof of the world, it becomes clear that the Himalayas are not just a simple backdrop. It is a system in constant tension, a place where each species fulfills a specific role, where survival depends not on a single skill, but on a precise combination of patience, efficiency, and adaptation. As you descend from the more exposed slopes of the Himalayas, the landscape changes without warning. bare rocks give way to hillsides covered in vegetation, and the constant wind filters through tall, dense tree trunks. Here the cold is still present, but it no longer hits you head-on. It seeps in. The Tibetan forest is not a welcoming refuge. It is a closed, humid and demanding environment where visibility is reduced and sound behaves strangely. Every creek seems close, every shadow may conceal something else. At these intermediate altitudes, survival depends not on dominating large open spaces, but on learning to move within narrow confines. Here, the strategy changes. Among the moss-covered trees and bamboo lives one of the most recognizable animals on the planet. But its fame doesn't reflect the complexity of its daily life in this extreme environment. The giant panda. At first glance, the panda seems out of place. Its bulky body, slow gait and calm expression contrast sharply with the harshness of its surroundings. But that impression doesn't last long. In Tibet, nothing survives by chance. The giant panda is a specialist. In an ecosystem where competition for food is intense, it chose a different path, concentrating almost exclusively on a single plant, bamboo. Although it belongs to the group of carnivores, its digestive system has adapted to process large quantities of plant fiber. It's not a perfect adaptation, however. Bamboo has low nutritional value, therefore the panda must compensate by eating it for most of the day. It spends up to 14 hours a day feeding. It can consume more than 30 kilos of bamboo in a single day. Stems, leaves, shoots, everything is used. This strategy has advantages and costs. The abundance of bamboo in Tibetan forests reduces direct competition with other large herbivores, but it forces the panda to maintain a constant energy expenditure. Eating is not an option. It is a permanent necessity. Unlike other bears, the panda does not hibernate. Bamboo is available year-round even when snow covers the ground. While other species build up fat reserves to survive the winter, the panda continues its routine almost unchanged. Its thick black and white fur acts as a natural insulator. Beneath that layer of fur, a thick reserve of fat helps conserve body heat when temperatures drop below 10 degrees below zero. Although it may seem clumsy, the panda is an excellent climber. From a young age, it learns to climb trees with agility. This ability allows it to escape potential threats and also find refuge in high places. The life of a panda is, in general, solitary. Each adult occupies a defined territory. Interaction with other pandas is minimal and brief. Only during the breeding season in spring is this isolation broken. When a female panda goes into heat, she can attract several males. What follows is anything but peaceful. The males compete for the right to reproduce, clashing with shoves, bites, and displays of strength. For a brief period, the panda ceases to be the symbol of calm that many imagine. The victor mates with the female and then leaves. The raising of the young falls to her. After a few months of gestation, an extremely small offspring is born compared to the size of the mother. For weeks, it depends entirely on her care. But the panda is not the only inhabitant of these forests. Nearby, among high branches and slopes covered in damp leaves, another species moves with a completely different logic. It doesn't live alone. It lives in groups. The Tibetan macaque. These primates are the largest monkeys in Asia. Adult males can weigh over 20 kilograms and stand over half a meter tall. Their bodies are covered in long, dense fur, designed to withstand the cold winters of the plateau. The color of their fur reveals key information. Adults have dark tones on their head, back, and limbs, while their belly and face are lighter. Young, on the other hand, have paler fur. Unlike the panda, the Tibetan macaque does not specialize in a single food. Its diet is broad and varied. It consumes fruits, leaves, shoots, bark, seeds, and insects. It can feed on more than 100 different plant species. This food flexibility is a crucial advantage in an environment where resource availability changes with the seasons. Macaques live in complex, hierarchically organized societies. Each group is led by an alpha male, the strongest and most dominant individual. He has priority over food and access to reproductive females. Young males, upon reaching maturity, usually leave the group. Staying would mean challenging the leader, something that rarely ends well. Females, on the other hand, remain in the group where they were born for their entire lives. The social life of macaques is full of constant interactions. Mutual grooming, games, minor squabbles, everything serves a purpose. Maintaining group cohesion is essential for survival, but the alpha male's power is not eternal. Over time, age diminishes his strength. Other males begin to challenge him. A change in leadership is inevitable. Sometimes when a group grows too large and resources become scarce, a division occurs. One faction breaks away and forms a new group, facing an uncertain future in a territory it does not yet control. While these social dynamics unfold in the forest canopy, another story is taking place on the ground, a much quieter one. In the clearings and forest edges, an iridescent bird traverses the terrain with precise movements, the Himalayan monkey. This pheasant is one of the most colorful birds in the Asian mountains. Its iridescent plumage depends not only on pigments, but also on the microstructure of the feathers, which refract light, creating metallic tones. The monkey spends much of its time on the ground. With its strong beak, it digs for roots, tubers, insects, and seeds. This activity, though seemingly simple, plays an important ecological role. By loosening the topsoil, it promotes aeration and the regeneration of vegetation. Its diverse diet makes it a key cog in the alpine forest ecosystem. For decades, the monal was hunted extensively for its plumage. Today, its stable presence is considered an indicator of a relatively healthy forest. Where the monal thrives, the ecosystem still functions, but the forest doesn't end there. Living at ground level, among alpine pastures and open areas, is one of the smallest mammals on the plateau. Its size is deceiving, its impact is enormous. The pike. Weighing only a few hundred grams, the pika might go unnoticed. However, it is one of the most important species in the Tibetan ecosystem. There are numerous species of pika in the region, all similar in appearance. Compact body, dense fur, and short ears, they look reminiscent of a small guinea pig. Pikas spend much of the day foraging. They dig in the soil in search of seeds, shoots, and roots. This behavior aerates the soil, improves water infiltration, and helps maintain healthy grasslands. But his real skill lies in planning. Pikas do not hibernate. To survive the Tibetan winter, they must prepare months in advance. During the summer, they gather grasses, mosses, and lichens, which they store in their burrows. When the cold weather arrives, their metabolism slows down by up to 30%. They move less. They expend less energy. Every bite counts. The burrows can reach several meters deep. There, the temperature is more stable and predators have difficulty accessing them. Pikas are cooperative. They often share food with other individuals in the colony, but this cooperation is not unlimited. When food is scarce, conflicts arise, and yet the pika occupies a central place in the food chain. For many predators, it is an essential food source. Among them, one stands out for its adaptation to the cold and scarcity: the Tibetan fox. This fox lives primarily in the open grasslands of the plateau. Its thick fur and compact body are designed to conserve heat. Temperatures in its territory can vary drastically between day and night. The Tibetan fox's diet relies heavily on pika. Ecological studies show that this small mammal makes up the majority of its food. The fox's strategy is clear: low energy expenditure. It often remains motionless for long periods, using its keen hearing to detect movement underground or under the snow. When it spots a pike, it acts quickly. The attack is short and precise. By controlling the pika population, the fox fulfills a vital ecological function. It prevents overgrazing and the degradation of grasslands. Where the fox disappears, the pika population increases and the balance is disrupted. Everything is connected. In the Himalayas, no organism exists in isolation. Each species influences the environment and the others, and while these interactions unfold in silence, the forest continues to breathe, adapt, and resist. Leaving the dense forests and transition zones behind, the landscape suddenly opens up. The tree line breaks, the horizon expands, and the ground transforms into a vast expanse of alpine grasslands, gentle hills, and seemingly endless plains. Here, the Himalayas reveal another face, a larger one, more exposed, and no less demanding. The wind once again dominates the landscape. It blows unimpeded, carrying dust, snow, and invisible signs. Solar radiation is intense during the day, but the heat dissipates quickly as the sun sets. The temperature fluctuations are brutal. The body must constantly adapt. In these high plains, life is organized around a simple principle: to resist. This is where Tibet's large herbivores live, animals that don't hide in burrows or rely on extreme camouflage. Their strategy is different: size, strength, and physiological adaptation. Among them all, one dominates the landscape like no other: the wild yak. The yak needs no introduction. Its silhouette is unmistakable: a massive body covered in long, dark fur that almost touches the ground, robust horns that curve to the sides and then upwards, a weight that can exceed a ton. This giant is the true symbol of the Tibetan Plateau. The wild yak can live at altitudes of over 6,000 meters above sea level, where most mammals simply could not survive. Its body is designed for this challenge. It has large lungs, a powerful heart, and blood specially adapted to transport oxygen in low atmospheric pressure. The extreme cold doesn't intimidate it. Its coat is one of the densest in the animal kingdom. Beneath that layer of long, coarse fur, a thick reserve of fat acts as thermal insulation. Even during the coldest nights, when temperatures drop well below freezing, the yak maintains its body temperature with surprising stability. Unlike other large herbivores, the yak is not picky about its diet. It feeds on tough grasses, mosses, lichens, and small shrubs. Its digestive system is adapted to extract nutrients from foods low in protein and minerals. In an environment where vegetation is scarce and grows slowly, this ability makes all the difference. The yak is constantly on the move. It doesn't migrate long distances like other herbivores, but it covers wide areas in search of suitable grazing land. Its highly developed sense of smell allows it to detect areas where the vegetation is slightly more nutritious, even under a thin layer of snow. Some yaks live alone. Others form small groups, usually up to a dozen individuals. Group living offers advantages during the winter, when the wind and cold are relentless. Together, they can better protect the young and reduce heat loss. Despite its imposing size, the yak is not an aggressive animal by nature. It prefers to avoid conflict. But when it feels threatened, it can become an unstoppable force. Its horns are not ornamental, they are effective weapons. Few predators dare to attack an adult yak. Attacks by wolves or snow leopards are usually directed at young or weakened individuals. Even then, success is not guaranteed. At this end of the food chain, the yak represents stability. It consumes vegetation that others cannot use and transforms that food into biomass available to the ecosystem. But the yak is not alone on these plains. Very close by, moving between lower areas and mountainous regions, another large herbivore roams the territory with a different logic: the Tibetan red deer. This deer is one of the lesser-known gems of the plateau. Its body is slender yet powerful. Males can exceed 200 kilos and boast impressive antlers that can reach over 70 centimeters in length. Unlike the yak, the Tibetan red deer does not stay in the same type of habitat year-round. It is a seasonal migrant, adjusting its location based on temperature, food availability, and insect pressure. During the warmer months, it moves to higher elevations where the air is cooler and the grasslands are abundant. There, the food is more nutritious and activity is intense. As winter approaches, it descends to lower regions where the cold is less severe and the vegetation is more protected. Its diet is varied. It consumes grasses, leaves, shoots, sprouts, and even tree bark. In lower areas, it usually feeds on willows and other shrub species. Every part of its anatomy is designed for survival. Its thick fur protects it from the cold. Its sensitive snout allows it to detect predators from a distance. Its long, muscular legs make it easy to move across uneven terrain. But there is a time of year when the Tibetan red deer completely changes its behavior: the mating season. During this period, the males compete for access to the females. The silence of the plateau is broken by deep roars that echo for miles around. It's a warning, a challenge. When two males meet, a confrontation is inevitable. They charge at each other, clashing antlers with impressive force. It is not a brief fight. It can last several minutes until one of them gives in. The victor gains the right to reproduce. The loser retreats, often wounded but alive. After mating, the male leaves. The female is left alone to face gestation and raising the young. For more than 8 months, she will care for the offspring, teaching it to move, to feed itself, and to recognize danger. In these open plains, predator pressure is constant. Visibility is greater, but so is exposure. Hiding here is difficult. Early detection is essential, and that brings us to the next actor in the system, the Tibetan wolf. Unlike the snow leopard, the wolf does not rely on absolute stealth. Its strength lies in cooperation. It lives and hunts in packs, a crucial strategy in an environment where large prey are difficult to bring down. The Tibetan wolf is robust, weighing over 30 kilos. Its fur changes color with the seasons, passing through shades of white, grey, brown, and yellow, allowing it to visually adapt to its surroundings. Hunting on the plateau is no easy feat. The prey is fast, resilient, and knows the terrain. That's why the pack coordinates every movement. They don't chase impulsively. They are selective: deer, blue sheep, yak calves. They choose weak, young, or sick individuals. The goal is not a long chase, but controlled attrition. A wolf can consume up to 9 kilograms of meat in a single meal, but such opportunities are rare. On difficult days, smaller prey such as pikas, marmots, or hares become valuable resources. Leadership within the pack is clear. Only the dominant male reproduces with the alpha female. This strategy ensures strong and cohesive offspring. The young are born in spring when conditions are less extreme. For weeks, they depend entirely on their mother, while the rest of the herd provides food. The wolf is not just a predator, it is a regulator. It controls herbivore populations and prevents overgrazing. Without its presence, the balance of the ecosystem is disrupted. And yet even the wolf faces limits. The cold, the scarcity, and the competition between packs make each winter a test of endurance. While large mammals dominate the surface, smaller forces sustain the system from below. Grasslands, lichens, insects, everything is connected. The giants of the plateau could not exist without that silent base. The Tibetan Plateau is not a place of excess. It is an environment of narrow margins. Every species that lives here occupies a precise role. If one fails, the impact spreads. The yak maintains the flow of energy. The deer redistributes vegetation. The wolf regulates populations. In the vastness of the Himalayas, it's easy to think that balance depends solely on the large bodies that dominate the landscape. Giants covered in fur, silent felines, coordinated herds, but that impression is incomplete. Beneath the yak's hooves, between the deer's paws, and under the wolf's hunting trails, there exists another layer of the system. One that is imposed not by size or strength, but by repetition, persistence, and numbers. Here, at the lowest level of the ecosystem, live the true engineers of the plateau. The ground may seem still, but it isn't. Beneath the surface, the soil breathes, it moves, it reorganizes itself, and much of that silent work falls to a small, inconspicuous, and extraordinarily influential animal, the Tibetan pike. At first glance, the pika doesn't seem like much. Its compact body barely exceeds 300 grams, short ears, a small snout, and thick fur in shades of brown and grey. It could easily be mistaken for a common rodent, but on the Tibetan Plateau, its size does not reflect its importance. Pikas form a large genus, with numerous species distributed throughout the highlands of Asia. In Tibet, they are ubiquitous. Wherever there are alpine grasslands, there are pikas. Their life revolves around two fundamental activities: feeding themselves and preparing for the future. During the warmer months, pikas spend much of the day foraging. They don't eat large quantities at once. They gather, select, and transport food. Grasses, young shoots, seeds, mosses, lichens, anything that might be useful later is used. As they dig for food, they constantly disturb the soil. This behavior has profound consequences. The soil is aerated. Rainwater infiltrates the ground more effectively. Plant roots receive oxygen. Grasslands remain healthy. Without intending to, the pike maintains the health of the soil, but his true masterpiece is planning. Unlike other small mammals, pikas do not hibernate. When the Tibetan winter arrives with its extreme temperatures and snow-covered ground, they cannot afford to disappear for months. They must survive by remaining active, albeit with a reduced metabolism. To achieve this, they store food throughout the summer. Pike burrows are not simple holes. They are complex systems with tunnels that can reach several meters deep. Inside, the temperature remains relatively stable. The wind doesn't get in. Predators have a hard time. There, the pikes create veritable larders, piles of carefully collected and dried vegetation, ready to be consumed when the outside becomes uninhabitable. When winter arrives, the pika reduces its metabolism by up to 30%. It moves less. It ventures out less. Every movement is calculated. Energy becomes its most valuable resource. Even so, they are not alone. Pikas are social animals. They share burrows with other individuals. In many cases, they also share some of their stored food. This cooperation increases the group's chances of survival. But cooperation has its limits. When resources are scarce, conflicts arise. Some tribes try to access other tribes' stores. Brief, intense clashes occur, but they are rarely fatal. Defending one's larder is defending one's life. In the harshest winters, when stored food is insufficient, the pika resorts to unexpected solutions. It leaves its burrow and seeks alternative resources. One of these, unrefined but effective, is the dung of large herbivores like the yak. In an environment where vegetation disappears under the snow, even these remains can contain usable fibers and nutrients. Nothing is wasted. And although his life seems like a constant struggle, the pike fulfills an even more important role, supporting others. In the Tibetan food chain, the pika is a key prey species. When large herbivores are scarce or become inaccessible, many predators rely almost entirely on it. One of them has adapted exceptionally well to this relationship, the Tibetan fox. This fox primarily inhabits the open grasslands of the plateau at altitudes exceeding 4,000 meters. Its compact body, thick fur and short snout are designed to conserve heat in a cold, dry environment. Temperatures in its territory can change drastically between day and night. Food is not always plentiful. Therefore, the Tibetan fox adopted a clear strategy to expend as little energy as possible. It often remains motionless for long periods, sitting or lying on the cold ground. It doesn't patrol aimlessly. It listens. Its hearing is extremely sensitive. It can detect the movement of a pike underground or under a thin layer of snow. When it locates one, it acts swiftly, a short, precise leap. The attack lasts seconds. Numerous ecological studies have shown that pika forms the basis of the Tibetan fox's diet in many regions. This relationship is not accidental. It is structural. By hunting pikas, the fox controls their population. If pikas were to multiply unchecked, overgrazing would degrade the grasslands. Vegetation would disappear. The soil would lose stability. Where foxes are scarce, the consequences are quickly felt. Thus, the Tibetan fox is not just a predator, it is an ecological regulator. Its presence maintains the balance between soil, plants, and small herbivores. But even the fox does not act alone. From the sky, birds of prey patrol the terrain. Hawks, eagles, and other species take advantage of any movement on the ground. For a pike that makes a mistake, danger can come from above or from the ground. This constant pressure forces the pika to maintain an efficient surveillance system. Although they don't emit alarms as elaborate as other rodents, their behavior is extremely cautious. They emerge quickly. They return quickly. Time spent on the surface is reduced to the bare minimum, and yet its impact persists. Abandoned burrows become refuges for other animals, reptiles, insects, small mammals. The work of a pike can benefit multiple species, even after it's no longer there. At this level of the system, nothing is spectacular. There are no grand hunting scenes or visible confrontations. But without this invisible layer, the ecosystem would collapse. Meanwhile, above this network of tunnels and underground routes, the large herbivores continue their lives. The yak treads, the deer migrates, the wolf hunts. All depend, directly or indirectly, on the stability of the ground. And that stability originates here, but the Himalayas are not a static system. They change, they adjust. They respond to internal and external pressures. In recent decades, that balance began to shift. Average temperatures on the Tibetan Plateau are rising faster than the global average. Glaciers are retreating. Water sources are becoming unpredictable. Grasslands are degrading in some regions. For species like the pika, these changes have direct consequences. They alter food availability, they modify the soil, they affect the structure of burrows. When the pikes decline, the impact spreads upwards. The fox loses its main resource. Birds of prey change territory. The grasslands degrade. The system becomes unstable. Therefore, understanding the Tibetan Plateau involves more than just observing its giants. It involves recognizing the value of the small, the silent, the constant. The Himalayas are not sustained by the strength of a single actor, but by the interaction of all. In the montane forests of the Himalayas, where bamboo grows on steep slopes and moisture clings to every trunk, there lives an inhabitant that is rarely seen. It doesn't dominate the landscape through size or strength. Its strategy is different: discretion, balance, and extreme adaptation. Here lives an animal that seems to have come from another era, a silent survivor in a rapidly changing world, the red panda. Despite its name, the red panda is not closely related to the giant panda. In fact, it belongs to its own family, with no living close relatives. It is the last representative of an ancient lineage that managed to survive in one of the most demanding environments on the planet. Its size is modest, similar to that of a large domestic cat. Its body is slender, covered in thick fur of reddish and brown tones, with white markings on its face that seem designed to break up its silhouette in the dimness of the forest. But its most striking feature is its tail. Long, thick, and ringed, it serves multiple purposes. It acts as a counterweight when moving along narrow branches, as a covering when curled up to conserve heat, and as a visual signal during brief encounters with other individuals. The red panda is a specialist of the forest. It lives mainly between 2,000 and 4,000 meters above sea level in humid coniferous and bamboo forests. Here, the temperature is rarely stable. Nights are cold even in summer. The ground is often slippery from the moisture, and dense vegetation limits visibility. In this environment, moving quickly isn't always an advantage. The red panda moves carefully, measuring each step. Its short, strong legs, covered in fur on the soles, allow it to walk on cold, wet surfaces without losing heat or traction. Unlike the giant panda, which spends much of its day on the ground, the red panda is a low canopy dweller. It climbs easily and spends a lot of time in trees where it feels safer. This ability is not accidental. In an environment full of predators, height offers refuge. The red panda's diet revolves largely around bamboo. Approximately 60% of its food comes from this plant: tender leaves, shoots, and young stems. However, unlike the giant panda, the red panda supplements its diet with a variety of other foods. It eats fruits, berries, flowers, insects, and even small vertebrates when the opportunity arises. Its digestive system, although similar to that of a carnivore, is capable of processing this mixed diet. Because bamboo has low nutritional value, the red panda must eat frequently, but its strategy is different. It doesn't consume large quantities in a short time. It feeds steadily, interspersed with long periods of rest. In fact, the red panda can spend up to 2/3 of the day sleeping or resting. This behavior is not a sign of laziness, it's energy efficiency. In an environment where food is not always plentiful and the cold increases metabolic expenditure, conserving energy is essential. Before beginning its daily activities, the red panda performs a meticulous grooming ritual. It licks its paws, rubs its face, and cleans its fur with repetitive movements. This behavior helps maintain the fur's thermal insulation and eliminate parasites. The life of the red panda is largely solitary. Each individual occupies a defined territory, marked with secretions from anal glands and urine. Encounters with other red pandas are rare and usually brief. Only during the breeding season, in late winter and early spring, is this isolation broken. When a female goes into estrus, she emits scent signals that attract nearby males. Courtship is brief and silent. There are no major confrontations. Mating occurs quickly, and then each individual goes its separate way. After a gestation period of approximately 4 months, the female gives birth to between 1 and 4 pups. She chooses a safe haven, a cavity in a tree, a rocky crevice, or a makeshift nest among dense branches. The young are born completely helpless. For the first few weeks, they depend entirely on their mother. She feeds them, cleans them, and protects them from the cold by wrapping them in her body and tail. As they grow, the young begin to explore their immediate surroundings. They learn to climb before moving confidently on the ground. This sequence is not accidental. In the Tibetan forest, danger often comes from below. Although it may appear harmless, the red panda faces numerous threats. The snow leopard is its main natural predator. A direct encounter would be fatal. That's why, when a red panda senses danger, its first reaction is to flee into the trees. There, its agility and balance give it the advantage. It can move quickly among branches, disappear into the foliage, and stay out of reach. If it cannot escape, it adopts a surprising defensive strategy. It rears up on its hind legs, raising its body to appear larger. It extends its front legs and displays its sharp claws. It is not looking to fight. It is looking to deter. This posture, combined with high-pitched vocalizations, may be enough to scare off smaller predators. But against a large cat, it rarely works. It's a last resort. Even so, the red panda has managed to survive for thousands of years in this harsh environment. Its success is not due to a single adaptation, but to a series of precise decisions: when to move, when to eat, when to rest, and when to disappear. But today, that survival faces new challenges. The Himalayan forests are changing. Deforestation, habitat fragmentation, and climate change are reducing the areas where bamboo can grow sustainably. Unlike other animals, the red panda cannot easily move between isolated forest fragments. Roads, human settlements, and livestock farming disrupt their natural routes. Every crossing becomes a risk. That's why the red panda has become a silent symbol of the fragility of the mountain ecosystem. Where it disappears, the forest loses its continuity, the system begins to fail, and yet its presence still persists in many corners of the Himalayas. Wherever the forest remains untouched, the red panda continues its ancestral routine: eat, rest, climb, survive. In the Himalayan balance, not all actors are visible from afar. Some sustain the system discreetly from the shadows. The red panda does not dominate the landscape. It does not transform it. It does not control it, but its existence proves that even at the top of the world there is room for subtlety. From a distance, the Himalayas appear motionless, an eternal wall of rock and ice separating regions, climates, and worlds. Its peaks seem untouchable, untouched by the passage of time, but that image is an illusion. Nothing here is still. The Himalayas are one of the most dynamic systems on the planet. Beneath its colossal mountains, the Earth continues to move. Tectonic plates keep pushing against each other, raising the land by just a few millimeters per year. A slow, constant, relentless process. But today, the most rapid change is not coming from below. It comes from above. For thousands of years, the Himalayan climate followed relatively stable patterns. Winters were harsh, summers short, and the seasons predictable within their extreme variability. The species inhabiting these mountains adapted to this rhythm. That rhythm is changing. In recent decades, the Tibetan Plateau has warmed at a rate exceeding the global average. Small temperature increases, almost imperceptible to the human eye, generate disproportionate effects in such a delicate environment. Glaciers, which for centuries acted as natural water reserves, are retreating. The Himalayas hold the largest concentration of ice outside the polar regions. These glaciers feed some of Asia's most important rivers: the Indus, the Ganges, the Brahmaputra, and the Yangtze. Hundreds of millions of people far beyond these mountains depend on them. When glaciers retreat, the impact isn't immediate, but it's inevitable. At first, the melting increases river flow. Then, as the ice disappears, the flow decreases. This imbalance affects the entire system. Grasslands that depend on a regular water supply begin to dry out. Plant growth becomes erratic. Large herbivores must travel greater distances to feed. Energy expenditure increases. The yak, designed to withstand the cold, is beginning to face warmer summers. Its fur, an advantage for millennia, is becoming a source of heat stress. Stress increases. Reproductive capacity declines. Deer alter their migratory routes. They seek higher ground for longer periods, but those areas do not always offer enough food. As wolves lose weakened prey, they must expand their territory. Packs fragment, conflicts increase. Nothing breaks suddenly. Everything shifts. Further down in the forests, the change is felt differently. Bamboo, the staple food of the giant panda and the red panda, is extremely sensitive to climate variations. Many bamboo species flower in a synchronized fashion and then die. This natural cycle has always existed. But now, global warming is changing the timelines. When bamboo flowers out of season or dies across large areas, the animals that depend on it face an immediate crisis. Migration is not always an option. Forests are fragmented. Routes are disrupted. The red panda, silent and solitary, is one of the first to feel the impact. Its world shrinks. Every felled tree, every human-made path, every change in the vegetation pushes it a little closer to the edge. And at the lowest level of the system, the changes are even more subtle. The pikas, engineers of the soil, depend on the stability of the grasslands and the predictability of the seasons. When rainfall becomes irregular and snow arrives late or disappears too early, their cycles are disrupted. The burrows flood, stored food spoils, colonies weaken. When the pike population declines, the effects spread rapidly. Foxes lose their primary food source. Birds of prey change territories. The soil loses aeration, grasslands degrade, the balance shifts layer by layer. Added to all this is a relatively new presence at this point: human beings. For centuries, the human populations of the Himalayas maintained a close but limited relationship with the environment. Traditional livestock farming, seasonal grazing, and subsistence agriculture were part of the system without overwhelming it. Today, that relationship has changed. Roads cut through previously inaccessible regions, mining encroaches on fragile areas. Tourism grows, bringing with it infrastructure, waste, and noise. Domestic livestock compete with wild herbivores for grazing land. Each intervention seems small on its own. Together, they alter the system. And yet, the Himalayas are not a defeated ecosystem. Despite the pressure, it keeps working. It adjusts. It adapts. Species don't disappear immediately. They change their behavior, modify their routes, and alter their schedules. The snow leopard, for example, expands its territory and adjusts its hunting schedule to avoid human areas. Wolves modify the composition of their prey, birds change altitudes. The system holds up, but that resistance has limits. The Himalayas are not just a collection of mountains and animals. They are a complex web of relationships. Water, soil, plants, herbivores, predators. Everything is connected by flows of energy and matter. Breaking a link doesn't destroy the system immediately, but it makes it more fragile, less capable of absorbing shocks, less flexible in the face of the unexpected. That's why what happens here doesn't stay here. The fate of Himalayan glaciers influences water access for entire regions. The stability of grasslands affects millions of people who depend on them. The health of the ecosystem reflects the health of the planet. And yet, amidst these changes, the Himalayas remain a place of extreme adaptation. The vulture continues to circle over the valleys, fulfilling its silent role. The snow leopard continues to stalk among impossible shadows. The yak advances with slow but steady steps. The pike digs, stores, endures. The red panda sleeps in the branches, wrapped in its tail. Life doesn't give up easily. This documentary isn't a story about a distant, inaccessible place. It's a window into a system that sustains far more than meets the eye. A reminder that the most important balances are often invisible. The Himalayas are not just the roof of the world. It's their thermometer, their reserve, their warning. As long as these mountains stand, life will continue trying to adapt. The question is not whether the Himalayas will change. That is already happening. The real question is how much room is left before the balance shifts too far. The wind sweeps across the plains once more. Snow falls on the peaks. The system continues its motion, and from the highest point in the world, the Himalayas continue to watch.